We have 73 books in the Bible, 73 books. So if you look at most translations nowadays, or at least English translations, like New King James Version, New International Version, for example, they have how many books? 66, right? Not 73, because the Old Testament has 39 only instead of 46. And it's not that we added books, it's actually that it had always been 73, and the first time they were ever taken out was by the first Protestant reformer, Martin Luther, when he was translating into the German vernacular. He's the one that was the first one. He included them in his Bible, but as an appendix, not as inspired. He read them, he actually liked them, but he didn't include them as canonical. And the reason he did that is because he wasn't using what the whole church had been using up until Martin Luther for 1,500 years, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament that was written 200 years before Christ. It was translated even before Christ was born. It's a very old translation. The apostles themselves, when they were writing the New Testament and they wanted to quote the Old Testament, they were using the Septuagint. The church fathers used the Septuagint. So this is what the church, and even till now, that's why the Psalms are numbered a little differently. Like Psalm 50 can be Psalm 51 in New King James Version, but for us it's Psalm 50, because it's a different translation. Martin Luther, he used the Hebrew, not the Greek, the Hebrew Masoretic, which had only been done 500 years before him, 1000 AD, 1,000 years after Christ. So it was a very recent work that was done by a group of Jewish people called the Masoretes. So anyway, they didn't include those books, so Martin Luther didn't include those books. So we didn't add any books. It was simply that Martin Luther removed those books. They had always been in the Christian church. Divided, of course, into the New and Old Testaments. The word testament just means covenant. So the Old Covenant, the New Covenant. The Old Testament is divided, you can divide it into 4 sections or 5 sections. The law, of course, the historical books. So there's 5 law books, the 5 Mosaic books, 12 historical books, 5 books of wisdom. And this, the 512, 5512, sometimes it's called the Old Testament phone number. It's like an acronym or a mnemonic, like a way to memorize it. This only works for the 39 books. It leaves out the 7, so you have to memorize those kind of brute force. And then the books of the prophets, there's major prophets and minor prophets. 5 major prophets, and then 12 minor prophets. But then, of course, we have the 7 deuterocanonical books. And in addition to that, 7 books that were removed by Martin Luther, plus some additions. The reason being that, again, the Greek and the Hebrew had slightly different texts of the book of Daniel, the book of Esther. So we have almost an additional couple of chapters in Daniel. Like, for example, in Midnight Praises, when we say the 3rd canticle, we sing that. That comes from Daniel, I believe, chapter 3. And it's almost like 120 verses. You read it in the New King James Version, it's only like 20 verses. It's missing 100 verses. So there's even additions to some of the books. Instead of 150 psalms, there's 151 psalms. The last one was removed. So that's what's called the Deuterocanon, the 2nd canon. The 1st canon, and then the reason it's called the 2nd canon is because it was removed and added. Okay, the New Testament, of course, the Gospels, the book of history, which is the book of Acts, the epistles, which are broken up into the Pauline or Pauline epistles, which are 14 because we include the book of Hebrews. We believe, and the early church fathers believe, that it was written by St. Paul. It just doesn't include, Paul, a bondservant of Christ, because he was writing to the Hebrews. And if he had written that introduction, they wouldn't have read it because they hated him at that point. But we believe that he wrote it. And then also the 7 Catholic epistles or universal epistles. And then the book of prophecy or the Apocalypse, Revelation.